Positioning Asia in digital world. Why is it digital world? Because whether we like it or not, we are in digital area.
Leadership and public relations go hand in hand. As public relations becomes more strategic, it needs to show leadership and collaborating with other functions.
We're the architects, and what we have to do is make strategic decisions, both internally and externally.
We start with the CEO forum because we think that public relations should start from the top management.
I was trained that if you repeat something enough, it becomes automatic behavior. We have to establish our objectives, and they must be measurable over time and have a baseline against which we're going to set. Your baseline is where you start, benchmark is what we're targeting. You build awareness, that's the first phase in the cycle. If you got awareness, now you want to add knowledge. If you have a product and nobody knows of it, you're going to make any money? Probably not.
I think Indonesia is one of the Asian leaders in corporate communication and public relations, especially in the area of education, bringing the younger practitioners into the fold and teaching them the strategic aspects of how to communicate with various stakeholders.
If you're not out there listening in terms of what's going on, you have no idea what is actually happening.
I think the next area that we're getting at in communication research and measurement is the establishment of standardization. That is, without standardization, we have no way of comparing our results against other results. We've standardized the terminology in the Dictionary of Public Relations Research and Measurement. We are working now on what's called ISO type standards, whereby everyone can understand what people are asking and how they're answering.
Many of them already are in leadership positions, but they're just a few years from being a significant part of the leadership ranks in organizations. I've been coming to Indonesia for 10 years, working with colleagues here. It's been a great experience. I've enjoyed it. And I've seen the public relations profession evolve during those 10 years, going from a profession that was seeking legitimacy, trying to be recognized, to a profession that now is seen as essential by many businesses. And I think digital communication, online communications, and social media is what's driving that.
The theme of the summit is broken down into 5 sub-themes. We are talking about digital communication, we are talking about leadership, we are talking about reputation, engagement, and trust. We are talking about strategic communication and stakeholder management and the accountability of social media.
The theme for this summit is extremely relevant, looking at communications in the digital age in our world. And we live in a world that is hyper-connected. Interconnectedness defines who we are. We know what's going on in the United States and Indonesia or other countries at any moment in time because of digital and online communications. So I think the topics that we address here over the next 2 days are extremely important. They define work today, and I think are extremely relevant, and I look forward to it.
We start our day mostly with smartphones, and that has fundamentally changed the way our stakeholders are consuming information. And it's purely on digital. So we start with the smartphone, we move into our iPads, then we move into our laptops. And you know what? We'll probably use all 3 screens when we're watching our TV, right? So how do we communicate in this sort of environment where the attention span is so short and moving from screen to screen? And that is a challenge for us as communicators. It has definitely changed the way we have communicated, right? So moving on from a press release or an opinion editorial and the likes that we used to do before, where the written word was everything that we do, it has moved towards a more audio-visual sort of format. And it has to be a short form format over a long form format, right? but we cannot not do without the written word. So how it works right now, from a PR standpoint, from a communication standpoint, is you got to start thinking digital social first. You got to start thinking mobile first, and then work up the 4-screen model and end off possibly in print. That's how things have changed. You need to start listening on the social conversations, right? So tools like Social Baker or Radiant 6 or Sysmosis and all of that will allow you to understand what your crowd, your target market is talking about and what's relevant to them in the context of your business or directly about your brand. If you look at the power of social and digital, nothing can be hidden very long anymore. So I give you a great example about what's happening in Malaysia, the 1MDB scandal. Every week, every day, something new comes out. And we're talking about banking secrecy laws. We're talking about other laws. Look at the Panama Papers. There's really no way anything can be kept secret anymore. How do I then get my message out through the clutter? How do I get the narrative around my brand, my organization, out through so many diverging, different sort of messages across different mediums? All the clients that I'm speaking to right now are asking us that question. How can you help me navigate this complex media environment? And the media environment is no more print media or broadcast media. It is social media, it is digital media, it is hybrid media, and it's across different screens. And that takes a different skill set. It takes a different sort of mindset in how we want to put our information out. And it takes a lot of analytics, constant measurement about how your content is performing out there.
I think it's been growing exponentially for the last 10 years. I see an improvement every 2 years that we hold this summit meeting. It's very exciting to come to a fast-growing, emerging economy like Indonesia, a very important country, not only in the region but economically, globally important. And that's why I think Indonesia is really a benchmark for the future of public relations. The future of public relations is in countries like Indonesia. So I'm very pleased that there's been so much good development, and many thanks for all the work that you've done in developing this summit over the years. I've seen an exponential change in the growth of the program.
Crisis management is kind of the larger framework. You can kind of think of it that's sort of like your building when it comes to a crisis. And it covers everything from your preparation to your response to your learning from when you're having a crisis event. And I look at crisis communication sort of as electricity. It's what makes the building work, because that's what it flows through it. When people think of crisis communication, they mostly think of the response, what the company says and does after the crisis. But really, through that whole process of the crisis, through your preparation, through your response, and through your learning, you're doing a lot with communication. So crisis communication is really about sort of trying to manage both information and managing perceptions about the crisis. I think the most effective strategy, whether you're dealing with a crisis that involves victims where someone's been injured, or something that's more sort of reputational in nature, but people have questions about your organization's behavior, is that you show compassion for anyone who might be injured by it, and to show respect for anyone who has concerns about your organization. And I think if your response embodies both compassion and respect, that's going to be your most effective strategy in the long term. A lot of people think crisis communication is all about protecting the organization and its assets at all costs. But it's not. It's about protecting stakeholders. And if you take care of your stakeholders, you will automatically take care of your reputation as an organization. And you can't privilege the reputation at the expense of the stakeholders, or you'll ultimately hurt your organization.
We don't come and hear Asian voices often enough. In the work that I do with Global Alliance, we hear an awful lot from Europeans, North Americans, even South Americans with the Spanish-speaking side, but not enough from Asia. So with the work I'm doing now, which is about trying to explore a global standard, it's important we hear all the voices. So an event like IPRS, very important for me to be here.
most of the theory we learn from European and Americans. We have no basic standard for public relations performance in Indonesia, for example. It is therefore we want to learn some from developed countries and adapt the global standard to the Indonesian situation. This is therefore we invite international speakers from Europe, from America, Canada, Australia, South Africa, and Asian countries.
What's important, I think, for a profession to be taken seriously in public relations as an image problem, because we have not explored enough global standards or standards that other professions can look at and see they know what they're doing, I know what public relations people do. So when I started the work with Global Alliance 16 years ago, I was there when we founded this organization, we started exploring a code of ethics that could be applicable globally. The way we did that is we examined what everybody was using. We found points that were in common, we showed the differences, and then we discussed what would be a minimum acceptable standard for a global standard.
I believe that what has happened here with the IPRS, it's really a very good way of coming up with an innovation in this part of the world, absolutely necessary, specifically given the history of Indonesia, the history of this part of the world. I believe that what Elizabeth has done and what you are helping her do is cementing these kinds of events at this part of the world, which is extremely important. What we would like to do is create a network where we have strong points across the world, and I believe that this is a big innovation in this part of the world, and I think it can only grow for future business.
I think what we need is just to change the paradigm of public relations from technical aspects such as the tools of marketing, tools of publicity, to very strategic level or managerial level, I should say, in terms of having the higher position, having more confidence from the CEO. One of the biggest points is just the practitioners are not able to prove tangibly, to give tangible proof to the top management about the contribution of public relations activities. Therefore, we need to emphasize the research, the measurement, and the evaluation.
It should not be only a technical aspect. Communication is an extremely strategic tool in the world that we are living in. And for future participants, I would not, for the life of me, miss this conference. So I would suggest next time around, you will have to be here in your droves.
I think we have some very good dialogue between local Indonesian practitioners and academics in public relations here in Indonesia, and we have a good faculty from around the world. I think it's 5 countries we had represented here, very high-level executives who've lectured all over the world, who have experience all over the world. Like I'm a good example of that, having lived in 5 different countries, including some emerging countries. I think in future it'd be good if we had more people from the region, from Singapore, from Malaysia, maybe from Thailand, even Myanmar, to learn from Indonesia, and Indonesia to learn much more of a sort of regional markets. And I think there'll be a lot more of that. Would be very, very useful to have that going forward. So I think that's the next stage, is more of a regional meeting.
The summit is an amazingly great idea. In the United States, and I also spend a lot of time in Europe over there, some of their concerns are about, how do we connect up practitioners and academics so we can have this exchange of knowledge? And it really is an exchange, because while you have some academics here talking about their research and how that can be applied out into the field, we're also taking in from the questions and discussion and learning from the practitioners as well. And that's what people in the US want, and that's what people in Europe want, and that's what you have here at the summit. You have this perfect blend where you're bringing together academic and practice to inform one another. Because even though we do research and people think, oh, the researchers are off doing something really abstract, we're not. Our research is designed to try and improve the practice, and we want to take that and move it into the practice so that we can help people in the long run. Because if the practice and everything is enhanced, the stakeholders benefit, the organizations benefit, and overall society benefits. So I think the summit is an important part of bringing that knowledge together, where you can get educators and practitioners together to help create an advancement in the field.
It's great to see so many professionals and colleagues who are here today. It just shows there's a hunger for more information about upskilling themselves. I think the IPRS, the way the program was done, and the high quality of speakers would benefit any professional.
The IPRS is a way to advance your knowledge, your understanding, and the relevance of communication in today's world. Whether you be corporate, whether you be public relations firm or agency, government, or whatnot, the world has become so small and the transmission of the message so fast. Our strategy has to include reaction time that is much less than it used to be. And this is beyond crisis. This also includes simple communication with employees. You have to be fast, you have to be efficient, you have to be on the message level, and at the same time can contain your key messages to the points that you need.